Nigeria is not a country. I stand to be corrected. It has never been. Yeah. The British enter, collect some territory, take and they do business. And Fulani, they exist. And when you hear them talk, then say Fulani belong to every country. Then they tell you, say, any country where they find themselves, then be citizen of that country. Then go tell you. But originally, like I tell you before, for Africa here, Senegal, Mali, Niger.
They call on Bayo, Guinea,
or
Nanuga. We command you to death. Since you have decided not to be using your ear to hear the real gist.
Yes.
And you are using your mouth to speak nonsense.
Yes.
We command.
The hidden tragedy of a nation is to forget. If this is true, then perhaps Nigerians would do well to go back through the mists of history to a time before colonialism and beyond, to search for their original identity and to look for change. It's a sort of...
All right, everything about Nigeria is grab and go. That is the foundation that was laid in this country. And I will prove it to you. Watch this video first. We'll come back. We are going to continue. It's coming from Mr. Expensive himself.
Nigeria is not a country. I stand to be corrected. It has never been. Yeah. The British enter, collect some territory, take and they do business. A man take the northern protectorate of the country because all the northern chiefs then bow for him in collect them. When the British come say the man they make money well, then come begin to they disturb them. Now come, you are a Britain, and now we give you, when we do Berlin conference, you know they there, now we send you. You now you can't take and they make money. Yeah, how much you will take compensate you. Now, if then they use the word compensate, now understatement. This man, what they call George Goldie, sold Nigeria to the Britain. And see, I dey vex because we have leaders, we get professors. You understand? We get engineers, we get DSS, we get doctor, we get Nemam, we get lawyers, son, everybody, nobody they even investigate Nigeria. How can you say you amalgamated us in 1914 and in 1960 you gave us independence? Till today, we never get our hearing. What is happening? Pick that, who be that way they disturb us. All right. As I tell you, Nigeria was sold and forcefully collected. I go prove them. George Goldie sold the Northern Protectorate to the British because of all the mineral resources we did here. Then come notice, say, it be like say the southern parts get oil and everything. You understand? The amalgamation was a force.
Because of waiting they
see. Because of waiting and see. Now, George Goldie, he no get the capacity to take the South because the southern people, they a bit stubborn. You understand? Now, they can't strike deal with them. He can't sell that northern part where he don't dominate. He sell them 865,000 pounds. As at then. 865,000 pounds. We say we get researchers. We get, you see, government does waste money. We not get special advisor on this, special advisor on that, special advisor. You not go get 300. No better advice. They know they give you any advice. They know they chop money. Since the leaders, they cannot work with their head alone. They need help. What is the responsibility of all your special advisors? So nobody don't do investigation, find out, say, see what in the British do. Then when you talk, somebody go tell you within smelling mouth, say, why are you opening old wound? Why are you, now, I want to tell you something. Our journalists, I still they talk and I stand to be corrected. I regret being a journalist in this country because journalism is rubbish in this country. Any journalist will may face me. Yes. Because even if you want to hide things, not be things will go better your country.
Better the country.
And they say people they write article. Nobody don't ever write real article about this country.
History of Nigeria.
Now George Goldie sold part of the country. Then it never be Nigeria, Sha. You understand? Now, after the amalgamation, it can become Niger area, given to us by a girlfriend of Lord Lugard. When they say somebody is your Lord. Now, Lord Lugard sold it to the British. The British now can't come by force. You see that amalgamation now brain. Now, they bought the northern area. They forcefully collected the southern area. Can't say now amalgamation. Make una come together.
So that it will be easy for them.
Then they don't penetrate now. That is why you see companies, all those foreign oil companies, where they cause pollution for the southern area. Now you want to hand over Nigeria, hand over Nigeria to its citizens, the original citizens. You can't hand over Nigeria to foreigners. Today we they get the problem of Fulani say Nigeria is their home. How will not go get the problem? When you want to hand over independent, you look at people when now you by yourself groom. I told you, check, go and who train these people for school. Nobody, Ojuku train himself. Nnamdi Azikiwe train himself. Awolowo train himself. All the southern people train themselves. Why is the hatred on the southerners? But you prepared these people even before independence. Go check when Tafawa Balewa go get scholarship, go there before independence. Yes. Then Amadou Bello too got scholarship to go to our local schools because maybe no one go abroad. Now when you now check the hierarchy of all our kings or chiefs, then get first class, second class, third class. I go give you this as an assignment. Check who be the number one when it come to monarchy for Nigeria. Who be the number one? This one assignment to everybody where they listen to me. Hierarchy when it come to our first class chief. Who be say even if you go gathering, federal government they do gathering, then they sit down according to the hierarchy. Which position on need? Which opposition Obi of Onitsha? Which position Oba of Benin? Which position Ata of Igala? Waiting be their position. Which position be Saudana? Make una, when we come back, because we get interview, make una tell me the hierarchy. I rest my case, and my case has been rested. We'll come back for part 2. Let's go there.
Yes, if you listen to the foundation of Nigeria, you will know that this country is purely for business. The foundation is based on business. Even till today, people that are in the corridors of power in Nigeria, they are there for business. Investigate. That foundation continued up to today. The masses also follow suit, waiting for their own turn, because everything is turn by turn. It's not about how to lead the country to a greater height. It's not about how to better the lives of people, but the business in Nigeria, positional business, you are going there to get your own. That is the foundation. That is what Mr. Expensive is saying. If not, why has there not been call, even these National Assembly people, come together and say, what? Why is this country not working? What are we going to do? Can we ask the questions of what happened in the past? Can we confront the British people and ask them some things? Let's, make some, findings. Another thing is involved. It means that the country is benefiting some certain set of people. If not, what is stopping the investigation? Why did you amalgamate us? You see that this thing is not working. We don't want it like this again. But because it is benefiting some people. Truth be told, Nigerians are not happy. Truth be told. It's just that some few people don't have the opportunity to come out to say these things. Why some that has the opportunity say it every day? People are not happy. I'm going to show you something. People... oh my God. This one, they don't go traditional. They don't go spiritual. Nigerians don't go spiritual to swear. It's not just about swearing. This is something that has, that was well planned and to a certain level, as in to some stages. It has passed several stages and it has solidified to become a system of which Nigeria is operating today. I tell you that even if you give opportunity to some ordinary people you see complaining, they will even do worse things. So it's not, oh my God. Well, let's hear what this guy is saying. These two guys, they have gone spiritual. I'm not saying that there are no good people. There are good people that wants genuine change, that knows that this thing that is happening in Nigeria is that some people have bewitched Nigeria. Nigeria is in trouble. Where there are people, many people like that knows these things. But let's go into this video. We are just starting, in short. We are just starting. But watch this first.
We are not really happy, at all. We are not happy with what is going on in this country. Just yesterday, see a whole advisor of spokesman to president. And I know they know what this spokesman be.
He verifies the information before it begins.
You don't just open your mouth and a whole spokesman. We even have something for the spokesman. Bro, let's listen to this video before we would actually say something to that Tinubu spokesman. Just listen to the video first.
He said, whatever you do, I never chew alligator pepper to say something against your fellow person. Rather, chew it and liberate yourself. Chew it and say something positive. Chew it and pray against all the negative forces in the spiritual realm.
Bro, are you thinking what I'm thinking? You're thinking what I'm thinking? Count 7, I beg.
That's alligator pepper. We need to count 7. First of all, wait, hold on.
Count 7. That spokesman or something.
Yeah, we'll take and we'll give.
We don't ready for as pastors. They no one.
They don't want hear words.
As they no one do what they're supposed to do. Make we do.
They're supposed to go march.
No worry. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6. That's 7. You count your own 7. The way this 10 or day, you for make up 14.
For past 7, no.
More use 7 for the spokesman. More use 7 for the spokesman. Then we go use 14 for Apabio. We call on Bayo Guinea
or Nanuga.
We command you to death. Since you have decided not to use your ear to hear the real gist.
Yes.
And you are using your mouth to speak nonsense.
Yes.
We command you to death.
Yes.
Until you begin to do the right thing. Since you are a spokesman to the president and you don't want to spark what people will understand. Since you're a spokesman to the president and you don't know that you're supposed to speak what is life to the people.
Yes.
Instead of people are dying, we don't hear them say anything.
You do not go for those people. It's
people like it, we command you to death.
Alligator 7 for you.
Bro, give me 14 for Apabio.
Make am 21.
No, 14 for Apabio. Now, if you make am 21, what will happen to Wiki? Mo just put all the Senate people them for inside this.
All the wicked senators. They reserve the one who will also give supporters at the chief priest too.
Chief priest there.
Yes, now. Plus,
so those ones no they cost already. I no need to add.
Okay, no need to add to the cost. Abi.
You can't cost.
No, just leave them for that.
You can't cost the cost.
We'll leave them for Pascal punish you. We'll leave them for that one too.
Yes, that Uber done the hard lab 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. To Akpabio, everybody in the Senate that has been supporting evil
people.
Akpabio, if you are supporting good, God, this cause will not work for you.
Yes.
People in the Senate, if you are supporting good, this cause will not work for you.
As of rep,
if you are supporting good, this cause will not work for you. The judges, if you are supporting good, this cause will not work for you.
Add governors.
Governors, if you are supporting good, this cause will not work for you. But if you are part of
wait, add local government chairman.
Local government chairman, if you are supporting good, this cause will not work for you. Because we know we have some governors that are doing well.
Yes.
Other state governor
and
Enugu state governor
are doing well.
People are doing well. But you see any governor, any senator, any local government chairman, any councillor, house of rep, even cost rep.
Yes, cost rep.
Yes, now. That is in Nigeria. Judges, chief judge,
vendor,
chief judge, king judge, queen judge. Any of you that has made people to cry in this country. Any of you that have made the children in this country to be kidnapped and you're not saying anything about it. Any of you that has made bandits to be existing in this country and you're not saying anything about it.
Rehabilitate them.
Any of you that is part of the pain of these people in this country. Any of you that is part of the pain. We Curse you people now.
14 alligator pepper.
Pwah! Now let's go to the upper echelon. We will do for Sheyi and Tinubu together.
I will couple wiki. I will couple wiki. But that one was like 60.
It be like we go do Tinubu before we kill. Because we kill now Tinubu problem. I feel say this alligator no go there now for Wiki and Tinubu.
No go buy another
one.
So even if Nigeria wants to remain, it can never survive with this kind of system that we are running. We have major groups, major tribes that are very, very tribalistic in what they are doing. In fact, the major tribes in Nigeria, they are tribalistic. Let's just put it that way. So if you say Nigeria will survive with this kind of system, hey, it don't go work. Hey, it cannot work. But meanwhile, let's go back with Expensive himself. He will tell us what happened. Though many of us are aware of these things, how the Fulanis came, visitors came and took over. Started from the north, and they are still pushing up to today to conquer the south. Well, let's hear what happened in that encounter, looking at the history. This video is vital. You are not going to miss any part of it. I bet you. Let's go.
And Fulani, they exist. And when you hear them talk, then say Fulani belong to every country. Then they tell you, say, any country where they find themselves, then be citizen of that country. Then go tell you. But originally, like I tell you before, for Africa here, Senegal, Mali, Niger, they even there for, as they don't migrate and they inside Cameroon and they for Chad, So any country they find themselves, they claim citizenship for that country. But meanwhile, Usman Danfodio enter Nigeria in great-grandparents enter Nigeria, then settle down for around that Niger. And of course, when they enter, Nigeria never become country. So I tell you, say George Goldie, now him they use the northern area, they doing business. Before he can sell them to British government and business place. Then Nigeria no get name. So it was until the amalgamation, 1914, before Flora Shaw conquering name, that is Lord Lugard, girlfriend, conquering name, give us Niger area, we become Nigeria. Before they marry, she be girlfriend, we give us that name. Still, we no change the name. We continue to use the name like that. All right, now, Usman Danfodio, he can't begin to preach religion. In the preach the waka. Meanwhile, the Sokoto was not a caliphate. Sokoto was not a caliphate. And as at then, we never get state. Hausa been get kingdom, the Hausa kingdom. So when Usman Danfodio come begin to preach, he come as a religious scholar. They preach. When he preach to you, you go follow him. And of course, their fellow Fulanis, they already intermarry here. So it's easy for them to get followers. So both the Fulani and the Hausas, some people will believe in him, they follow him. But of course, him na warrior, him still be upon saying be preacher. Him come invade in that 1804. He invade, he fight war. Because according to stories, they say if him preach to you, follow him. He go come back with his soldiers. Now war be that too. Hey. Now, the kingdom of Gobir, the Hausa kingdom in general, Hausa they do their culture. Before you know, Usman Danfodio, he come. All these places will be Katsina, Zaria, Sokoto, Kano, in conquer all, But him they use style, enter them before he go come for fight. So if he don't preach like that, you accept problem no day when I go do. So now him come create Sokoto Caliphate. He makes Sokoto a caliphate. For those who don't know the story, make una go read. Now, I tell you, say, these travelers, these Fulanis, when they reach, if they lie, when they reach Igbo land, they take there as their destination. Before you know, they speak Igbo. You go hear Igbo Fulani. So now, so they do become Hausa, take them as our brothers. Now, I mean, you can't hear Hausa Fulani. Originally, we get Hausa Kingdom, but today, mention any Hausa Kingdom where they again. God. Now, the same thing happened for Kwara State. Many of you know the story of Afoja and Alimi. Way back before Danfodio. You know? Afoja and his brother from Ile-Ife, then get quarrel. Maybe the previous Oni of Ife. Then they fight. All this kind community fight. Afoja can go call Alimi. Make it come help and Alimi na warrior against soldier. Say, if you help me win this, my brother, I will give you a place to stay. Then they for Kwara State. Alimi come. Join Afoja, fight him brother. Then defeat him brother. They can't give them a place to stay. Before you know, they won't dominate. Now the stories, I don't know why our elites, our religious leaders, then they hide all these things. Make Nigerians know, I be how. Those days now, Obas, now in there for Kwara, or Ilorin, but today, now waiting there, somebody tell me. Today, who be the highest monarch for Ilorin? Somebody tell me. You keep on losing your land, and you don't get mouth to talk. Una never still tell me, how many Hausas be emir? Because now Usman Danfodio, after him take over all those areas, he install emirs. I stand to be corrected. Today, Sokoto is a caliphate, single-handedly created by Danfodio. Now, with the fight for Nigeria, community, brother and brother, then they separate us, we separate ourselves, brother and brother. These people, they come. Say, yes, now then get Nigeria. But is there no history? Nobody feel boldly come out, come talk. Everybody they fear. Everybody they hide. But I want to tell you, say this world, make I tell you now today. Many people don't understand what it be reincarnation. You know they die forever. You they come back in another form. This world, that is why then they let you know, say, the spiritual controls the physical. There's a lot of spirituality in this world. Even me, I dey believe say I don't come before. Because it gets some things where go they happen where I go dey see like say, this thing don't happen for my friend, this thing don't do. I know this thing, no, I know the I feel say they do some people. You know? Somebody tell me say Lauren have I just want I tell you I say an interactive section. No more obas. Na emia. How they take enter Kogi? How they take enter Kwara? You know? How they take enter Edo? Now the same style. Now make I can't carry you go back. Because of waiting, the colonial master don't sell. The negative narration when don't sell. Make you know say these people, they get their plans. And if they favor the colonial master till tomorrow, because they put their trusted people for there, for power. And if you watch, during the Biafra war, all the states, where we say now them bring troops, go fight. All those states. Now those states where we say they not be core, they get their own language. Like for Kaduna, you go, they get their language. Benue get their language. Exactly. Plateau get their language. Niger get their language. Nupe and all that, this thing. Even Nasarawa. Today, all those states will not be core, where they say not be core Fulani, then they suffer. Now you they hear all those fights, all those caputing, all those killing, all those, they still they do that same thing. All those states where we say now them go front, you go know say Idoma people, Kogi people. You understand? Then fight Kaduna people, Plateau people. Of course, go one now from Plateau State. Now then fight that Biafra war where. Today, waiting be the result. Waiting make me begin to tell you history. And they tell you the history because of the lie narrative, and waiting bring am. The governor of Plateau State apologized to the Igbos, meaning the Igbos has been exonerated. Even for the book where Babangida write, he still exonerate them on top that 1966 coup, where they say na Igbo coup. And why I can't tell you this thing? If to say na me, I dey government, I be head of government, I be president, and I see say these Igbo people, where they take fake narrative, take marginalize them, they deal with them, even with the fake narrative, then still they excel in everything where they put their hands. Now the buying and selling, then leave the government. Most of them leave the government, then come up for the government, go they do their private business. Today they are richer than many people. And because Nigeria has never been a country, because in 1957, it did for interview, they no give us full independence. Where you they talk that time, they no give us from the speech you go here. Say, but they never given a full independence. Now the independence where they give us, now just to promote that ancient style of slavery, they introduce the modern style of slavery, who still date till today. And you, where you go rule Nigeria, if you no protect the interest of your colonial master, you no qualify to be a candidate. You see all this election, what would they do? Say, this person. If you no protect the interest of your colonial masters, because they get stake for your mineral resources, they get stake for all the things where they hear. If you now read about Benin Kingdom, una go know say Benin, then they among the Asian kingdom where first get electricity, get gold. But these people, now, because, you see, I tell you, say, the world is more spiritual than religion. Which day religion come now? Yeah. Which day religion come? You now, when you there for abroad, when you do abroad, when you stay there finish, at the end of the day, where you go come back? You go come back to your land. You go come back to your father's land. Now so it be, before them introduce religion, and the painful part, the people who introduce religion, they know they do them again. Because when you finish that your religion, you go still come back to your traditional belief, where be spiritualism. Because a lot of things where these people don't take from us, can't go form their own. Because I tell you, say, when then they come pick us as slaves. People from the East fight back. Now, where the hatred come from? Now, because we get our spiritual belief, we they take our jars, they fight them. Then they die, oh. Not be said they no die. Then first they come with sword, they come with all those things. But later, they go invent gun, invent bomb, all those things. They take and they come. They fire us from distance. All the jets, rocket launcher, atomic bomb, not be for animal, now for human. You see where their own thinking they go, how to finish you and take what belongs to you. Shebina now then begin return the things where they steal from Benin. And of course, you go they talk say, okay, if we get spiritual God, why our God no fight that time? Now let me tell you, the God no go fight until you invoke him. That is why then they do incantation, they pour drink for ground. Now all the people were supposed to invoke the God to react, the Igbo don't pursue them. Because 1 + 1 is equals to 2. If you do add 1 + 1, you say equals to 3, na wrong answer. So the people will understand how to invoke the God is either they don't first, because then they invade, then they can't kill. So not everybody fits invoke those gods to operate. That was how they took all these things and go to their land. Go they study them, how this thing they get power. And I go shock you today. During the days before civilization, and of course, the civilization, what would they talk? Now all this invention, where then they invent. And all these things where then they invent, television, phone, electricity, gun, aeroplane, all the resources where then they do and from Africa, then they get them. Then call them technology. Fela call them technology. Technology. And of course, During the ancient days, the devil introduced evil. The evil became worse. Now, which people can't they do the evil? Then they do the evil to Africans. When the evil became worse, they know say Africans go revenge. And that's they tell you, because many of them don't know nothing. As they see said the Africans don't they vex, they don't they wise. You know, I said the devil introduced evil. The colonial masters did evil to us in Africa. When they saw that we are becoming wise, they introduced the Bible. Immediately they introduced the Bible because we believe in our oracles. They told us our oracles are the evil, whereas now them be the evil. They told us our oracles are bad. They took away our oracle. They went back, utilized our oracle, improvise on it, and bring it back to us as Google. Today, instead of us to ask our oracle, we they ask their Google. I don't know whether you understand what you had to talk. But if you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, you forget about it. I want to rest my case here. And for you who want to argue, I am ready for you. I go teach you that thing. I go expand and escalate beyond here. I want to tell you, say this your colonial masters, they no get any future for you. Then they use you as a case study in their universities that will not allow Africans to unite. The day Africa unite, we are finished. Any leader will want raise his head up, say he won't bring policies where go favor the Africa, they will take them down. And our leaders know all these things. Then they steal our resources. You too, where you say you be leader, you still they carry our resources, they go give them. In terms of traveling for medical checkup, in terms of vacation, we not get a hotel here where we go stay. In terms of education, when they pack our money, still they go give them. If they are not corrupt, why must a corrupt leader steal money and take it to your country and you accept? How much is the salary of the leader? Where you bring that kind of money? You pretend that you have integrity while you are the most corrupt. You kill Africans. See how then they kill our people for Mediterranean Sea. Because of, they put hardship, they make sure, and now be say, as they make sure to say our leader want us to grow, we for grow. Because nobody go come hold your hand. He go reach you, I go reach you, fight back. I go tota diseni, agbara lore mwa. But you are blaming, they say, and a community, waiting me that thing where government they use. If people clash. Communal clash. Then go send a communal clash. Whereas now orchestrated plan to destabilize communities. May them fight themselves. Take over the land because there are deficits of a lot of mineral resources that are worth billions of dollars. At this point, in the day to play today.
Yes, our problem is the foundation of this country. It has never been built on the foundation of trust and foundation to service. It has never been like that. The idea of Nigeria is to go there and grab. We keep saying these things. How can you purchase form, ordinary form for election? 100 million. So already you have said that certain people are not qualified to run. Meanwhile, you said in the constitution that you don't need to go to school to become the president, that you only need to read and write. But how can ordinary person, just ordinary artisan, maybe he's well, he knows, he's wise. How can he become the president if you have already schemed him out with the amount of money that you put there to run the country? You see the skirmish nature of our political system. Well, I'll leave you with these current updates that are happening.
The hidden tragedy of a nation is to forget. If this is true, then perhaps Nigerians would do well to go back through the mists of history to a time before colonialism and beyond, to search for their original identity and to look for change. It's a sort of theory of leadership in currency, the need to get deep into history in order to find ourselves and rebuild our society. Well, by that score, the historian, documentary maker, and former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice for Lagos State, Olasupo Shachore, is well ahead of the curve. His much-acclaimed Netflix documentary, Journey of an African Colony, The Making of Nigeria, struck a chord across the world when it was released at Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary just over a year ago. Here's a reminder of that groundbreaking epic. And I'm suitably delighted to say that the man you saw presenting in that documentary trailer, the historian, lawyer, and former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice for Lagos State, Olasupo Shachore, joins me now from our studios in Lagos. Absolutely delighted to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I remember actually seeing that documentary on Arise News, as well as, of course, on Netflix. Does it make you cringe when you, because I noticed you were sort of, your eyes were blinking a bit nervously. I mean, you've probably seen it 1 billion times now, and you're thinking, crikey, not again.
Absolutely, absolutely. It does make me cringe, but yes, thank you for having me on. Yeah.
I mean, you have absolutely no reason to cringe, I have to say. It's an absolutely masterful production, and I would urge people who haven't seen it to go and see it. There's a lot to learn from it. But for you yourself, what have you learned about this country that you didn't know before as a result of making that film? I mean, Nigeria, clearly a country at the crossroads of sorts today.
Well, one of the most, I think, profound things was the realization that, you know, we often repeat, sometimes in prayer, sometimes in observation, sometimes just out of idle habit, how great our country is. And it's a fact. But in researching and doing the documentary, I found that Nigerians are great as well. In fact, probably greater than Nigeria is. The Nigerian people are the ones that haven't really been heralded as much as the promise that their country has always held for the world.
That's an exceedingly poignant observation, and it's actually got me thinking quite a lot what you said there. But where would you say Nigeria's dreams of greatness were born? I mean, was it the money, for example, from the black gold of oil? Is it in the British creation of a giant colony, the largest in Africa, or what? Where does those dreams of greatness come from?
Well, you know, it's again, I have to refer to the people. It's a bit cliche to say that the strength of a country is in its people, but there is no country that is more true than Nigeria. I think anybody who could have seen the conglomerate that was created would have seen that, you know, it's a bit obvious to say, oh, oil, mineral resources, tin, cotton, groundnuts, cocoa, but the real wealth of the country has always been, and it appears to be for the foreseeable future, in the strength of its people. And you know, I think it's a point that is made at some point in the documentary that, you know, there are acts of union and there are acts of disunion. And acts of union are made by people, by ideas. So Nigeria is bound together, not by physical borders, but by an idea that Nigeria will be this unity of people. And that's what, it holds true for what whoever came here and created it saw, and it holds true for why we are where we are, and it holds true for the future of the country, that they're intentional acts of unity, and it's in this, the people of Nigeria.
Well, I mean, like what you said previously, that's a very thought-provoking assessment. So given that analysis, help us to follow the trail that leads to where this country is headed today, 61 years after the promise of independence?
Well, at every twist and turn in both the history and the trajectory, the future trajectory of organizations, forget countries. I mean, countries, after all, are organizations on a super scale. At every point in that trajectory and the history, their decision-making. Decisions determine the trajectory. So many times we have been decided for, and we have decided for ourselves. And we're in a position where we can decide. So the strength of our future is going to be in how well we make those decisions. I mean, what that's based on, we can always touch on that. But the truth is, and let me take a microscopic example. In 1925, the governor of the day of the colony of Nigeria was a guy called Graham Thompson. And he had applied for permission to appropriate money to create underground sewage. Now, you would say, what the hell am I talking about? But 1925 wasn't a buoyant period in colonial history, and his application was denied. Now, if we had made underground sewage in 1925, perhaps we would have underground transport today. Underground transport would mean we'll be able to move a mass number of people in our urban centers, and have been an increasingly fantastic economic multiplier. So the point I'm making now, if we now scale it back up to Nigeria, you'll see that the decision-making process throughout our trajectory has determined where we are, and
right.
It will determine our future.
Okay, please stay with us. We're going to come back and you can finish that thought, but we've got to take a break. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our historical assessment of Nigeria with the historian, documentary producer, and former Attorney General of Lagos State, Olasupo Shashore. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Anyekolu. Now, my special guest today is the historian, documentary maker, lawyer, and former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice for Lagos State, Olasupo Shashore. Netflix documentary series Journey of an African Colony, The Making of Nigeria, a fascinating exploration of miners in Enugu and railway workers, trade unionists, students, journalists, and the masses across Nigeria. But after all their sacrifices, where lie their dreams of Nigeria's greatness today? And Olasupo Shashore is still with me from our studios in Lagos. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Now, you've gone through the past in your documentary. Now help us glimpse the future. Can Nigeria grow into an African superpower, or will corruption, ethnic conflict, insecurity prevail?
Well, the short answer is that Nigeria can, and my reasoning is observational. It's based on both history and a projection of the future, in the sense that it's still based on its people, and I can't apologize for stressing this point. The people and the human capital of this country hold the great future of this country. It is not in unearthed resources. It's not in created capital like bridges and railways and what have you. It's in our human capital. And that's the wealth, and I'm not inventing this, that's the wealth of the world. 77% of the world's resources are accountable and attributable to human capital. And the same is, even in fact, more true for Nigeria, because we have a young population, we have a creative population, a population that is suited for the world economy of the future, which is obviously driven not by hydrocarbons and produced resources, but in ability of people to innovate and create. So can it? Of course, Nigeria can, and the future is held by the people, but the triggers are in our intentional decision making coming into the future. And decision making, like I referred to earlier on, Charles, is going to be triggered by information, data, knowledge. What knowledge do we have to make sure that the decisions we make are the right ones for the future of the country?
Well, that's an interesting analysis, especially given all the things that have been said about this country but are yet to materialize 61 years after independence. I mean, given all the hopes and dreams and promise of Nigeria that you captured in your documentary at Independence, what's the biggest threat to Nigeria's aspirations to be treated as a world player?
My view about existential threat to the world is based on the fact that inequality between states on a global stage is the biggest existential threat to the world's survival. And the same is true internally. Don't forget, I just talked about globally as between states. But internally, as between the people of many of the states, particularly in the developing world, is inequality. And the sooner that is increasingly addressed, it's being addressed, but increasingly addressed at a rate that exceeds the impact that it can have negatively. I think inequality is the biggest threat to the global estate as well as the state.
Obviously, talking about Nigeria, you made an interesting point there about the growing inequality. I mean, part of funding or reducing that inequality is the way that Nigeria's resources are used. I mean, given that the Nigerian oil treasure chest, for example, has been broken into, is the great Nigerian dream in danger of being stolen, or has it already been stolen by powerful politicians and corrupt civil servants?
Again, you know, I don't like to emphasize natural resources or created resources. I think the wealth of a country and the wealth of the world is in human capital. So when I say inequality, inequality affects people. And the way to address inequality is to increase opportunity. When people have opportunity to be socially mobile, states prosper, organizations prosper, as well as the entire world economy. So the idea is to increase the creation of opportunities. And I don't think it's about oil or hydrocarbon or energy or what have you. It's about making sure people have opportunities to lift themselves and therefore their communities upward and exceed what has happened in the past. So.
Well, I mean, to put it rather brutally, I mean, why should the world take this country seriously when it doesn't appear to have full control of what is happening to its people? It doesn't seem to have the capacity, 61 years after independence, to have moved them forward in a positive way that would reduce that inequality dramatically that you're talking about and really take advantage of the potential of this country.
Well, you know, we don't exist in a vacuum, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving you a context. We don't exist in a vacuum. We're part of a world ecosystem. We're part of a world economy, and we are affected by the forces that affect that are created by the world. And inequality, therefore, isn't something that is self-made by Nigeria or other countries in the development phase of their existence. But it's created by the domination by certain world powers that affect countries internally. And this is not an excuse for underperformance. It is a context for the current observations that you see. It is not correct to say that if you can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps, it's your fault. Sometimes the ecosystem makes it impossible for me to reach my bootstraps in order to pull myself up. And this is in international economics, in currency control, in favored nations and the way they club up against the developing world. So these forces, in context of history, have affected countries like Nigeria. And again, I stress the point that it is context. We have to draw back to understand where we are today and then look forward as to the ways in which we can improve where we will go tomorrow. So you can't deny the effect that under-civilization has had. When I say under-civilization, I mean deliberate imperial colonialism and the effect of diaspora economy on Nigeria, the effect of the stealing of human capital over basically 200 years. So it is a context to where we are as a player in the global economy. It is not an excuse.
Much as I agree with some of what you said, I have to disagree with a lot of it for the simple reason that Nigeria is not the only country that was colonized. It's not the only country that's the victim of a global system. I'm trying to see how what you're saying has to do with an official given a budget to go and deliver a school or build a hospital, and he embezzles the money. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what's that got to do with the international global system. It's simply a person who's not utilizing the money that he was given to do a particular job for that particular job. Nevertheless, you were once said to have wanted to run for governor of Lagos State. You've got a lot of great ideas listening to you talking here. Do you still nurse that political ambition?
Well, I'm politically active, and in the sense that I pay attention to my community, I participate in ways of empowering the civic community into making sure that they engage. I have no plans to run immediately for office or what have you, but public service, as I always say, is a calling. It's not a job. To be called into public service is actually something that comes from within. It's not a job-seeking opportunity. So I'm not looking for a public office job, but I believe that I have a public service within me.
Please stay with us. We've got a few more minutes to talk with you. I know you've got to run, but do stay with us. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our historical assessment of Nigeria with the historian, documentary producer, and former Attorney General of Lagos State, Olasupo Shashere. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Enyugolu. So Nigeria's dreams of greatness, the energy and the pride of this country, and I might add the challenges it faces, were born 61 years ago at independence. But the essence of this would-be African superpower, from its celebrated music, arts and many cultures to its troubled oil-producing south and its militant agricultural north, all of it owes its provenance. It is as relevant then as it is today. And the lawyer, historian and documentary producer Olasupo Shashere is still with me from our studios in Lagos. Thank you for your patience. You, of course, ended your celebrated documentary on the 1st of October 1960. That's where it ended. Might we expect another one picking up from 1960 onwards, or perhaps a book, given that you're also a historian?
Yes, the answer is yes. I am working on follow through from the journey, the continuing journey from 1960, and I believe that it terminates in 1980. So, yeah, I'm working on that, and it's a much more difficult enterprise to write contemporary history, and you'd imagine that should be the opposite, because I guess the wealth of information should be more readily available. But there is a lot more manipulation and revision in modern and contemporary history than you will find in the antiquated and sometimes even prehistoric studies. So yes, I'm working on that continuation, but I have another project that's going to come before that, and that project essentially centers around Nigeria's prehistory and its medieval history. So we're going backwards a bit before we go forwards again.
Well, that sounds jolly interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, both when they eventually come out. But the documentary that we're aware of, the one that's in sort of the public domain at the moment, was arguably the first of its kind in Nigeria. I mean, it's garnered lots of attention and quite a bit of praise. I mean, should Nigeria be investing more in its history and possibly its geography, and how that has shaped what it's become today and is likely to be tomorrow?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We should be investing a lot more in knowledge acquisition on a general basis and knowledge that relates to our history and our common heritage, because they serve several purposes. Our commonality of our heritage is an intentional act of unity. So it's something that we will all agree on once we know it, and it'll bind us. Also, history is context, it is pretext, and sometimes it's even subtext for where we are and where we want to go. So it is an important national policy, sort of that soft infrastructure of the mind that we need to invest a lot more in to further our development as a people together, but also to increase our influence on the global and continental stage. So the answer is, well, Charles, absolutely yes. We need to invest a lot more.
And we know, for example, you've probably been asked this question dozens of times, but we know why the focus of your documentary ended on October the 1st, 1960, which is, of course, when Nigeria became independent. But why did the story, you're grinning already, why did the story begin in 1440?
Yeah, well, you know, the most profound thing that has shaped Nigeria as an entity, don't forget, we were several nations, but that shaped this nation that you see today has been external, and it's come from visitors. And we trace in the documentary the arrival of those visitors in West Africa, a huge behemoth of land called the European economies of the time, and how it has given birth to so many things that derive their name from this Guinea land. You know, the word guinea pig, guinea fowl, guinea brocade, whatever, and these things are still being studied, but you know, it's always been very special to me. And you know, even just reading back and watching footage, you see the euphoria, the ebullience, and the promise, and just the entire energy that must have been across this country on September the 30th, when they knew that tomorrow was the day when their destiny was going to be in their own hands.
Yes, I mean, I myself think of what it must have been like when that moment came. But for you, as a documentary maker, who was an essential part of the research and the putting together of this documentary, in addition to obviously narrating it, I wonder if how you were able to verify a lot of the historical events, because many of those accounts were recorded by Western diarists and historians, weren't they? I mean, I'm wondering if the African perspective, especially for the things that occurred in the distant past, are missing.
Well, yeah, research is tough, but I always say one thing, that you know, history is one of the most dynamic subjects that you can ever come across. People think, ironically, and in total contrast to what I just said, that history is static. History is what you know, but that's not true. History is investigative, and we know new things every day about our past. So history actually does change. Not that we change history, But our knowledge and the increase of our knowledge changes what we now know about the history of before. So that study is a very delicate subject, and that's what we engage in when we create things like the journey of an African colony. And it's verification is by corroboration, by looking more towards what's more probable. You're never certain about anything in history. You know the story that is most probable, and that becomes a history of that time until further evidence emerges. So it is a question of collaborating with people, with information, using information from different sources to say this is the most credible sequence of events. And that's how it's done. So the fact that the diarists were Western and sometimes were self-serving, but sometimes were just pure factual, and you then marry that against what the context of the time was, and you will find what's the most probable and therefore most credible history of any given time.
Very interesting. We've got less than a minute before we sadly have to end the chat. But I mean, your documentary focused on Nigeria starting from 1440, ending 1st of October 1960. Briefly, what were the biggest moments in that timeline?
Well, yeah, that's the question I've been asked many times. The biggest moment, oh my goodness, none was smaller than the other. But if I had to single one out, I think the national strike. I think the national strike of 49, because you saw Nigerians who were just becoming to understand that they were Nigerians come together to serve a common purpose. And I think the national strike was one time when they felt that freedom was a thing that they needed to prize, and the prize was in their hands to bring to life. So I think that comes to mind, and therefore Michael Imodu occupies a special place in my heart.
Good place to end the chat. Very interesting point that you made there, and absolutely brilliant talking with you. And please come back and talk with us when your new productions come into the market. The lawyer, historian, and documentary producer Olashipe Shashere there. That's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Bye-bye.
Yes, viewers, I thank you for coming along with me. Please, if you have not subscribed to YangaLife channel, click on the subscription button, notification bell, like our videos, and don't forget to share them. I am still Chinedu till I come your way next time.